I don't pre-order a lot of games these days, but I was kind of excited about this one. I wound up being a pretty big fan of the first Borderlands game, which was kind of surprising even to me. I managed to get all of the achievements, even all of the ones for picking up panties and fish bowls and oil cans, and the endless purgatory known as Moxie's Underdome. And if you've ever tried that, you know how much of a pain in the ass that is. Borderlands 2 wasn't afraid to shake things up and give a new focus to the story, which pushed the series in a whole new direction. But now I'm going to take a look at Borderlands, the pre-sequel. As the title suggests, the meat of this story takes place between the first and the second games, chronologically speaking. In reality, the timeline is still taking place after Borderlands 2, but the story is being told in the form of a pretty long flashback. This is a pretty clever storytelling device. Sometimes, though, it gets a little confusing because there's characters in the real present that are present in the game's present too, and sometimes you have to stop and remind yourself of who is talking from when. Confused yet? Well, it's not a major issue, but it'll keep you on your toes. The four main playable characters in this game are Athena, Nisha, Claptrap, and Wilhelm. And yes, that Wilhelm. You can also access Handsome Jack's doppelganger as a DLC character, and I've seen at least one other future one leaked online. Regardless of whom you choose to play as, the story will always be told from Athena's perspective. As with the previous games, your character has a special ability, and they also have a branching skill tree that develops as you level up. Also returning from Borderlands 2 is the Badass system. In the original Borderlands, your character's secondary leveling system would be based on which gun types you used most frequently, and I actually preferred this earlier system over the Badass system. Badass points are still collected by completing various challenges, and I do love this idea because, kinda like in Death by Degrees with the fingerprints, it rewards the player for doing some extra work. But the main downside with this system is that the reward to effort ratio becomes rapidly unprofitable, meaning that the amount of points you need to collect to advance vastly overshadows the reward. They did make a key improvement in this edition of the game. The goals are much more realistic to accomplish, which cuts down on the amount of grinding that you're going to have to do significantly. But they also removed the 100-point challenges, instead capping them at 50 badass points. And I'm not really sure why they did that. This game feels a little bit too much like Borderlands 2. They cloned the game engine, and then they made some minor changes. It's not a big deal for me, but I know that there are a lot of gamers out there that are tired of all these wash, rinse, repeat video games. I know it's a little bit paradoxical for me to be saying that while I'm wearing a Majora's Mask t-shirt, and that game cloned the game engine off of Ocarina of Time. But they were both fantastic, so it just goes to show you that you can do that and pull off a good game. But it takes a lot of effort, and I don't think that a lot of game companies nowadays are up to that challenge, so I hope it's not a standard practice in the future. This story develops fairly quickly, and you'll find yourself on Elpis, Pandora's moon. One of the new features, Oz Kits, capitalizes on this idea. You need oxygen to breathe, which is supplied to you from your Oz Kit. You can also use them like a little miniature jetpack to give you a boost in the air, which further expands on these games' exploration-based nature. Another great new feature that complements the Oz boosts is the slam. Pressing B while in the air will rapidly slam you back down to the ground, damaging enemies nearby. This skill's pretty damn important to get down to because you're going to be getting aggroed by creatures more than ever. Yeah, take that, you bastard. They did have one pretty big fuck up with this though. Landing directly on an enemy will make you hop around with little control. Kinda reminds me of what my friends and I call the Halo jump from Halo 3. Only here it doesn't serve to help, it just makes your life more frustrating! There are some great new additions too, such as differing gravity, laser weapons, the freezing element, and proton packs? Whoa, 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 don't cross the streams! I ain't afraid of no ghost. This gun even ended up being a great weapon to use with Nisha. Her showdown skill locks onto enemies with crazy auto-aim, and the gun deals continuous damage. Even bosses late in the game can't stand up to having an unlicensed nuclear accelerator blast right into their face. I was pleasantly surprised to find that many of the weapons earned from missions were pretty damn good on more than one occasion, opposed to the earlier games where you just choose the more expensive reward so you can sell it like junk. Which always pissed me off because they put these damn subtitles right in front of the price. That's all I want to see. And look at all this free space down here. Just put the subtitles down here and not in the way. Small nuisances like this are common in this game. Like, wouldn't it be nice to be able to know which D-pad button your gun's gonna get selected to? Too bad there's all of this text in front of it. I only bring this up because this wasn't a problem in the first game. It was very easy to see which D-pad button the gun was getting selected to. This only became a problem in Borderlands 2, and then they just chose not to fix it because they cloned the game engine. When it does come time to get that junk out of your inventory, you're going to find that the Marcus gun and ammo vending machines return in this game as well. Orange shit. Nice. Strange thing is Marcus himself doesn't make an appearance, except for the occasional decoration cameo. All of the lines that he uses in the vending machines were just copied straight over from Borderlands 2 as well.
You're my millionth customer. Don't let it go to your head.
It got pretty old hearing this after the 100th time in the last game, so it's pretty shameful that they didn't come up with something new for this one. Marcus played a prominent role in the last 2 games, but he's just mysteriously absent in this one. In fact, a lot of seminal characters don't even get a cameo in the future timeline, or the real timeline, or whatever you want to call it. You might think that this has something to do with the setting of the game, being on Pandora's moon and not on the planet itself, but several characters do appear that don't even make a ton of sense, like Hammerlock, and Lilith, and Roland, and Moxie. For starters, this game takes place after Moxie and Jack were divorced, yet it becomes quite clear later in the game that the story takes place before he burns down the Underdome. So why would she fly all the way to the moon just to open another bar? Granted, she is an entrepreneur and successfully runs several businesses, but considering the huge change in setting, it just feels like an awkward way to put her into the game. I am glad that she's in the game because she provides a lot of comedic relief and she has more personality than most characters you see, but it came across feeling to me like they forced her character into the story. And it isn't even entirely clear why Lilith and Roland are here, other than some awkward sort of romantic getaway. This patchwork of half-assed character cameos is really more confusing than it is explanatory. My favorite character, Dr. Zed, isn't in the game either.
Sorry, I got nothing.
Instead, he was replaced by Nurse Nina, who only plays a role in 3 missions, 2 of which are optional. So why'd they even include her and not just recycle Dr. Zed's vending machines?
A medical license when you got style.
It would almost be better than to listen to... Oh my god, he sounds like a drunk Oscar the Grouch with a shitty Russian accent. Some characters don't even get the dignity of being named. Scooter is only referenced by his relation to Moxie.
Because if you spilled, my son would have to bury you alive in a shallow grave.
But, trust me, that's not a complaint. Tannis is completely missing as well, and I think the designers missed a big opportunity here. They set themselves up with that whole story about her and the chairs on the ceiling and Jack. Why not fill it in now? All these bizarre character inclusions and exclusions, it really makes me wonder what the reasoning was. They changed a lot of voice actors between the first and the second game, so I know it wasn't because they couldn't get a hold of talent. You just hire somebody else for that. And some of these main characters don't even merit including, like Nisha and Athena. They had minor roles to play in the other games, so if you're trying to fill in backstory, I really don't know why they're in this game at all. One of the most obvious characters, Angel, she has nothing to do with this story at all, and she's supposed to be Jack's daughter. She had a huge role to play in both the first game and the second game, and she barely appears in this one. Hell, in the earlier games, they had a full motion video actress to play her part. In this one, she doesn't even get an avatar. She just has a squiggly line when she's talking. What the hell is going on? Although I was hoping to see some of these other characters, I won't hold their exclusion against this game. Like with Sonic Labyrinth, I try to judge a game based on its own merits, and not on the other related games in the series. That being said, let's take a look at the characters they did include. Pretty early on, you'll meet Janie Springs, who takes the place of Scooter as the vehicle technician. For the most part, I find her energetic personality refreshing, but there are some things about her that they're going to start to wear on you after a while. The first thing you're going to notice is her voice.
Even if you ain't the breathing type, you'll be glad you've got an Oz kit.
Her accent and mannerisms I found to be eerily familiar to Vanille from Final Fantasy XIII. Although they were voiced by different actresses, I can't help but call her Vanille sometimes, just out of frustration.
Well, I'm just fine, thank you.
And that's not to say I dislike Australian accents. Characters like Fang in Final Fantasy XIII had one too. I thought it was pretty hot.
Don't get cute.
Sorry, Fang. But really, anywhere you go in the Borderlands games, you find people with exaggerated accents, so this isn't something new. And hey, I found this talking gun to be absolutely hilarious. Reminds me of the soccer hooligans in Eurotrip. Priceless. One thing that you'll notice pretty fast in this game, though, is a bizarre obsession with homosexuality. Janie Springs, gay. Nakayama, yeah, he's gay. Well, Hammerlock, it's no secret, gay. Arbitrary boss, gay. Random scientist, yeah, gay. This game is really insistent on letting you know when a character is gay. I don't have a problem with LGBT characters in video games. In fact, it can be a great inclusion when it's executed well. It's not even a new thing. Birdo from Super Mario Bros. 2 is transgendered, but a few of you didn't know that one. But this game really likes to shove it in your face. It's almost like they think it's some sort of a credential that you'd give when you meet someone. It's like, oh, hello, I'm Professor Nakayama. I earned a PhD, I run an experimental research lab, I successfully perfected human cloning. Oh, right, and I'm a homosexual. I can't forget to let you know about that. Even more confusing is that this game audaciously insinuates that Americans are all slack-jawed homophobic racists after it repeatedly is making all of these jokes at homosexuals' expense.
Y'all to help me fix up some inspirational posters, y'all. Cowboy homophobia.
Access denied. Scans reveal subject is a racist hot dog.
Alright, I know I've made a few extreme parodies over the years making fun of racists myself, so I don't really have a major gripe about that. The one thing I don't really understand is that you find a new gun around every corner in this game, so why wouldn't they make fun of Americans for the obvious stereotype? I have guns in videos all the time just for the hell of it. It's okay to make fun of us, just have it have something to do with the game. Joking aside, the characters could use a little work, but they still do a decent job of propelling the story forward. I like Pickle's character a lot. I found him to be pretty funny, although I don't know why they didn't give his character a face when you see him in person. He is a fairly important story character, but the game designers were too lazy to give him something other than a helmet. Wait, is that Pickle? No, those are just DJs. Is that him? No, that's Nina's boyfriend. The core gameplay is largely unchanged from Borderlands 2. This brings the good along with the bad. Everything I enjoyed about the previous game returns here and is expanded upon with the new features. But they didn't try to fix any of the problems. What's the deal with this pickup glitch? There's nothing in front of me, why is it on my screen? Here there's a guy stuck in the floor and I can't proceed with the mission until I kill him. Fuck! Or this time when I killed Meg and then she immediately respawned again. Although I'm not gonna bitch about that because I get 2 times the loot. Fuck yeah! Near the end of the game, I ran into a glitch where my shield made me invincible. The thing just constantly recharged, no matter how many times I was getting shot. It made fighting the final boss pretty easy. This didn't even go away after I watched the credits, so I figured, hell, why don't we go ahead and fight the raid boss? May as well strike while the iron's glitched. Smaller fuck-ups that should have been fixed are like these skins. Why don't they just automatically unlock rather than clog up your inventory? Or better yet, why didn't they just get rid of the skins and go back to the way it was in the first game where you could customize your character any way you wanted? Now, I don't want to give the impression like I disliked the game. I actually enjoyed it a whole shitload. It was really fun. One of the best parts about all of these games is the fact that they have a heavy multiplayer focus. And that's not to say that the multiplayer aspects of the game take over, it's that the multiplayer enhances the game incredibly. Even when you bro-kill your teammate by driving off a cliff. One huge benefit of playing with another person is that you're going to see a lot more orange rarity loot. You are going to have to fight with them over it, but this is a game of give and take, so you got to learn how to share. They do cap how much bank space you have, but in the previous games they increased it with the DLC, and I hope they do here, because it just feels dirty selling orange rarity loot. Ever since the first game, inventory space has always been a premium, and it's been pretty important.
I'm not a big fan of the bank.
What? Moxie doesn't care for the bank? But there wasn't even a bank feature available in the first game unless you got the Moxie's Underdome DLC. She practically invented the bank, so why doesn't she care for it? I just gotta stop trying to make sense out of this game. Most of the enemies in this game are reskinned versions of previous games' enemies with a few modifications. Now the psychos have jetpacks. The midgets? Well, they look like DK mode from GoldenEye. Big skags break up into smaller skags. And racks, well, they got a different name. I was really glad to see that the Vault aliens returned too, because their absence in the second game deserves some explanation, which you don't really get. To sum things up, I'd call this game bittersweet. It's got a lot of highs and a lot of lows. This game has a lot of replay value because each of the characters has a unique skill tree and you're going to get a different experience every time you go through the game. I also like to compare new games to the modern game market. And when you compare Borderlands, the pre-sequel, to a lot of the other games that are out there right now, this one has some longevity that the other ones don't. To a new player that hasn't played either of the first or second games, this one might be a little bit confusing to the uninitiated. And to a veteran player, you're just going to have to learn to take the good with the bad.